One. Hello there, everyone. Uh,
Hello.
Good evening.
I was waiting for it. I was just waiting for it. Awesome.
Welcome. Welcome to the mists.
We're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons today. And yeah, so you got Pittsburgh Pat, the Slider, Mr. Vincent here. And we've talked before. And so if you want to check those out, check them out on my playlists. And yeah, subscribe to the channel. So we're going to talk about today horror and character death. And if you're teaching like newbies, kids, or somebody squeamish, how to avoid that. But so let's jump in. We were talking about right before we started recording about our favorite kind of gothic horror novels. And in fact, Mr. Vincent's reading some like the granddaddy of all of them, I guess.
One of the
Yeah,
grandfathers of
that's
horror.
yeah.
I picked this version up when I was in Italy. It's a English and Italian translation of some great H.P. Lovecraft stories.
Wow.
And
So
of
look,
course, right here we have another grandmaster, Mr. Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh,
and the Slider was talking about his one of his favorites, two of his favorites.
yeah. Yeah. Well, because we're going to talk about character death, one of them actually like coincides. But so my two favorite books are Bram Stoker's Dracula and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And I was saying how Dracula still creeps me out. The original, there's parts of it like when he turns into the Hound and comes running off the ship in the beginning, and even when like he's having his first meeting with Dracula, it's like creepy the way he sets the scene,
Hmm.
and it almost feels like a Dungeons and Dragons scene setting when he's
Hmm.
describing all the stuff in his library and all that stuff. But you know, I we all know, as I've said before, first character I made was Slider, and then I wanted to give him a younger brother, and that was Star Child. And I thought, well, you know what? He's definitely a middle child, so I should give him an older brother, and that was Squint. And I based Squint off the character Ned Land from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea,
Hmm.
and he died. And he died in Eberron.
Tell me about Ned Lamps. I don't know much. Tell me what that
So
character.
yeah, Ned Land in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, he was a harpooner by trade, as he would say, and he signs up on a ship to try and hunt this sea monster that's been destroying ships.
Okay.
And he is a if he was a Dungeons and Dragons character, he'd be a cross between like a soldier and or I mean a fighter and a rogue, I would
Hmm.
say, with definitely, seafaring background. And so I made Squint. I made him a fighter with like proficiency in spear and harpoon and all that stuff. And but he died in a shipwreck in Eberron.
Down to Davy Jones' locker he went.
Well, that's, I mean, definitely a, character that has that D&D motivation, right? What's your motivation? I want to hunt monsters, right?
Right.
And that's what D&D's main mechanic is, right? Is like, here's some weapons, go kill some monsters, basically.
It's the dragon part of Dungeons and Dragons.
Exactly, right? You got to go into the dungeon to get the dragon. In this case, the dungeon's the ocean. So, Lovecraft, right? Did Lovecraft, I have a question, a serious question. Did Lovecraft invent Cthulhu or did he adapt that from something that he like found, you know?
Oh my
Or
my.
maybe that's too deep a question because I don't know.
No. And I am not a scholar of Lovecraft. I mean, I've certainly read everything he's written, but that doesn't, some of that stuff I read 40 years ago.
Sure. Yeah. No, I hear that.
Or he invented the old gods, Cthulhu, and a lot of that mythology. Uh, he got a lot of that inspiration from previous authors. Um, but no, I'm pretty sure he came up with the line of Cthulhu lays dreaming in the lost city of Rahalea or whatever. Speaking of Cthulhu, just for one moment, I want you to
Yeah.
see that we have a little Cthulhu miniature here over the top of the world, glowing.
So he glows different colors.
Well, when he's on top of that, but he looks like I picked this up the other. It's not painted, but picked
Oh,
this
yeah,
up the
now I
other
see it
day.
better.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Well,
that's
you
editor.
know, Mr. Vincent, not to switch gears on you, but over here in the great state of Pennsylvania, especially in our western portion, where Night of the Living Dead was originally filmed, is a
Absolutely.
small town called Livermore, Pennsylvania. And even when I was in high school, we would take trips there just to get creeped out. It's a scary place. They at one point they had flooded the old town. Okay, and there was nobody in it that we know of when they flooded it, and it's kind of like a reservoir. And if you're having a drought, and you go there and you look at the lake, the water, if it level goes down, it'll go down just far enough, just so the cross of the old steeple is
Oh,
sticking out of the water in the middle
Oh,
of the
wow.
lake.
Is that creepy or what?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
that
yeah,
is
gosh.
awesome. Wouldn't
Yeah.
it be
yeah, yeah.
great to go camping near there and have
People do.
a
People do
nice
just
fearful adventure? Yes.
yeah, yeah. People do just to get creeped out.
And
But
they never
it's
come back.
but yeah, yeah. It's a neat little tidbit about Western PA.
Oh,
There's a lot of good stuff in Western PA. I mean, we don't have, every once in a while we'll get like you probably get a lot more Bigfoot sightings than we do, but we get some. And then, or people claim. And then there's the Kecksburg incident, right? Where
Oh
it's a
yeah,
supposed UFO crashed and the government came in and covered it up, even though we're
yeah.
pretty sure that was a Soviet satellite. But you know,
Pretty sure. Yeah.
never let the truth get in the way of a good story. But like, yeah, there's the Night of the Living Dead reference is pretty cool. I just interviewed a dude. His name's Kelly Fools and
Yeah, saw that.
Fuls, and he directed a horror movie, and that's soon to be released in the fall, I think. And he got to shoot on location at the cemetery where they shot Night of the Living Dead, and he
Mm,
was and he was surprised at how easy it was. They all they needed was insurance. The people that run the cemetery, they didn't have any special extra permits. They just needed liability insurance in case somebody tripped over a headstone or something, and hurt
right.
themselves. But otherwise, he said they were really just like absolutely perfect, hospitality wise. They were like, yeah, sure, come on in, which is really awesome because I don't know if they do that at Allegheny Cemetery. You might have to sneak around, and I'm not sure, but
Probably.
like, there'd probably be permits galore. But yeah, this is up in one of the more northern country tier counties that's away from the urban areas where they have a lot more
But
legislation and
you
stuff.
know, you mentioned Allegheny Cemetery.
Hmm.
I think it's the one where he's at. There was this. You have to go way back now, but he was a professional athlete. I think he was a tennis player. His name was Eben Myers, and he was from Pennsylvania. He was from like the Pittsburgh area.
Hmm.
Right now, he's actually buried in a lead coffin because at the time there was this thing that was considered the first energy drink. It was called Radathor, and what it was water laced with radioactive
Yeah,
material, right?
radium.
And yeah, yeah, and he like loved it and thought it was like the cure all thing. And he drank so much of it that he died of radiation poisoning. But his bones are so irradiated, they had to bury him in a lead coffin. And I read this report where they actually exhumed his body. I want to say about like 10 years ago to
He
test the
rose from the
bones,
grave.
to test the bones, and they were still highly radioactive. They had to they had to just send it back in. It's crazy if you look it up. It's a Eben Myers. It was his name, I believe. And but yeah, and they say like if you're like antiquing or something like that, and you sometimes people will sell like old medicine bottles from like the 1800s, early 1900s. If you ever see Radathor, run the heck out of there as fast as possible because it's still
Mm.
putting off juice.
The half-life is still active on this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Little
So
tidbits,
Yeah.
and something like that story that you just told 100 years from now could lead to new mythologies.
right.
And,
Sure.
that's fascinating.
Sure.
Fascinating. I've
Why?
Yeah.
never heard that
Where
story, but
where
Well,
did
I
the
looked into it. I looked into it real deeply because I got like really curious about it, and this is something that seems like never changes. It was actually prescribed by doctors, but the company that was making it was getting kickback they were giving doctors kickback for every time they prescribed it. And I'm like, man,
Oh, that
the more
never
things
happens.
change, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Here,
That's
here, the
right.
kickbacks. As soon as I can get some, I'll cheers.
Reign of
Cheers it more.
Thor. That
The
sounds like a great
ironic,
character name.
yeah, the ironic thing about that is that this guy's buried in a coffin, and it was the radioactive stuff that killed him. Now
Yeah.
we're finding out these energy drinks, especially the ones that are plant-based, have tons of lead in them. So like,
Really?
yeah, be careful if you're doing protein powders and stuff like that
I
because
don't, but I didn't know
the
that.
the vegetables concentrate the toxins. They absorb them from the soil. So depending on where they're planted and whatnot, yeah, you can get some pretty high doses of lead. So the literal dumb jock thing is like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And like lower your intelligence by drinking these energy drinks. And
Now
unfortunately,
we
some of these
know.
people use them as meal substitutes, and it's
Now
not
we
good.
now we have another piece to the sliders attribute puzzle.
That's a great
Plants,
backstory for your
Yeah,
character, right?
yeah,
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 Too
plants
much
are
love.
awful,
yeah. So,
and
so,
D&D plants are even worse.
yeah, yeah.
Unless it's
Well,
good
that's the
berry.
thing. There's a funny suggestion I saw, which was every D&D campaign, if you go into a shop for a magic shop, they should have like a bin of like potions with no labels on them that are like bargain based because bargain basement prices because nobody can remember what they do, right?
And they reach
That's
their
great.
expiration date.
Right.
That's
So when the
hey.
party buys one and somebody like drinks it in the middle of the
Oh my
campaign, you
gosh.
just don't know. You roll a dice and on a
Yeah.
table and find out what
Co-
happens.
Come up with 20 different possible outcomes and have them
I'm
roll it.
I'm
You know
so
what I mean?
using that. I'm so using that.
Oh
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
as long as five of the outcomes are poison. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yes,
Oh, well,
absolutely.
yeah, most of them
Percentages.
probably would be, right? Yeah.
You know
Especially
a
for
percentage is
rogues, though, because like that's the bane of like rogues is, you need advantage to get your sneak attack damage, right? So as soon as the DM finds that out and he gives you the poison condition, you have disadvantage. So anything that would like counteract that just gives you a normal roll. So like, we had a DM that was going to try to do that, and now my high level rogue has a periapt poison necklace so that he can't be poisoned.
Man, I cannot wait to do this potion bargain bin
Mm.
as a DM. This is my brain's already coming up with all
Hmm.
kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Well, if you DM before I do, you can use it.
Oh, we'll
Yeah,
both
and
use it. Who cares?
Yeah.
a good table that you could get some inspiration from would be just like the wild magic table too
Yes. Yes.
for
Right?
sorcerers
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and just have
Absolutely. Yeah.
weird
So it's
stuff.
ready
Oh
made.
wow,
Mhm.
you start blooming flowers out of
Yeah.
Mhm.
your ears.
Another
Like
good one
Willy Wonka
is
in the chocolate factory.
The wand of wonder type thing
Another good
too.
one, my Tuesday night campaign with Brian, the verdigris table. He was running dolmen wood, and dolmen wood has a lot of mushrooms in it. So you eat a mushroom and you don't know what's gonna happen. Like this goblin on a snail sold our party some mushrooms, and like the one dude's eyes like became like laser or like lighthouse beams, and then he ate another one and he was levitating 5 feet off the ground. So we're like pulling him around like a balloon, and that's got a searchlight on it, the whole rest of the
So,
campaign.
so hold on a second. While we record this, let's all work through. Let's walk through this bargain bin potion
Yeah,
idea
maybe that's what this
because
video is.
because listen, so you're gonna have characters slash players that buy it and then try to figure it out. What would they have to make like a medicine check? And
Maybe.
and 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 where would we put that DC at? Would
Or
or would it
Arcana.
or Arcana, or would a detect magic spell or anything do anything? I wonder.
Well, my suggestion, if I like distinguishing between medicine and arcana, because sometimes they get overlapped, right?
Okay,
Like wisdom and
right.
intelligence does. So I would say if you do a medicine check, you'll find out whether or not you can drink it and not be poisoned, right?
Okay.
And then the arcana check might give you an indicator of what it might do, or you might understand one of the reagents, and that'll give you an idea of like, okay, this seems harmless, or oh, this seems pretty potent magic. It might actually do something else. So.
But you like the idea of just giving clues, not being like, okay, this is going to, you know,
Yeah,
do
because
X,
if the
Y, Z.
guy who owns the shop can't identify it, then
Right. You
why
make a
would
good
the
point.
player be able to identify it? Unless they're really high level, maybe. But
Or they have they're an alchemist.
yeah,
Okay.
You
So
know,
that
that'd
that
be different, you know,
proficiency
but
would be all right. No, I like that, Mr.
Alchemist
Vincent.
tools, because I like incorporating
Right.
tools because very few people use tools
yes,
in D&D,
Right,
right?
right, right,
yes.
right.
Yeah.
So
So that would
that's
be a
so
good
that's
way.
the avenue. If somebody has proficiency with alchemist tools, that would be an avenue to figure it out.
Yeah, they could do a
Uh,
little litmus test. They could take out their little pipette and put it on a piece of
you can't do
litmus
that in my
paper,
shop. You got to
right?
test that outside the doors. Make them buy
Yeah,
it first.
no refunds. You bought
No
it.
refunds.
That's right. That's right. I love it.
Wow, I like it. I think we just worked that out for everybody.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun. What if that starts showing up in people's podcasts?
Let it, let it. I
Oh,
like
Yeah,
well,
it.
you know, we did put it out into the universe and
that's
thus it will
right.
happen.
Mm,
That's right. Yeah, because
I
we know
like it
that
though,
we we know all those big time YouTubers, D&D YouTubers take everything from us.
because
You think they're
because here's the
you think they're
because here's the
mining all of our good ideas?
uh,
AI is mining it for them.
Well,
Oh, true.
because here's the other thing. This whole bargain bin potion idea, it opens up some other stuff. So, for example,
Yeah.
somebody with good enough persuasion might be able to get an even cheaper deal or
Oh,
like a
sure.
3-for-1. You
Yeah.
could have rogues just be like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna
I'll
like
just lift
steal
it.
one of these. Right,
Yeah.
right, right, right. And
Yeah,
and still
yeah.
have no
And then
idea
put
who
it
the
in
guy is.
somebody, and then put it in one of their party members, like canteens, and then
Oh,
they
I would
accidentally like ingest it at one point during a
if
water break
Oh,
or a
much
if
long
they did
wastage.
that.
rest.
If
A
they
long
did,
rest.
if they did that in mine, I would make it like the greatest potion ever that they just
Right.
accidentally
It'd
gave
be
their
like
friend.
super
Yeah,
heroism, right?
yeah, yeah,
It'd be
yeah.
like when it'd be like when what's his name Weasley takes the potion and then becomes like the champion. What was it? He was the Quidditch player, right?
Yeah.
In Harry Potter, whenever Weasley, little Weasley's like, I'm the best, meanwhile it's water.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You
I've
never
never
watched
watched
Harry
it.
Potter?
Yeah.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
kidding. Of course, I've seen all those.
there's some good
Mhm.
stuff in there. Actually, that's what Strixhaven is basically. Strixhaven is just
Yes.
like Harry Potter, which is
Yes.
I'd love to run some Strixhaven stuff. I know it's not Adventure League legal. Well, at least Silvery Bells is not because it's such a powerful spell. You can like make people re-roll stuff. It's like it's broken, so it's like
Oh,
out.
silvery barbs?
Or
Is that what
Silvery
you're talking
Barbs. Yeah, what did I call it? Silver Bells.
Silvery bells,
Yeah.
silver
I was thinking
bells.
Hey,
about I'm already
hey,
thinking
whatever
about
you call it
Christmas
in
in
your world
July.
is
Hey,
fine.
actually, it's the 25th of June. We only have 7 months left. Um,
Mm,
but
yeah. All right. So we covered bargain basement
we
potions.
did, we did.
And we actually made some progress. I like it. I love
Yeah.
it actually.
So
Yeah.
do we want to talk about the original topic that we
We
were going to discuss?
Yes, I
try to
have
get
all
back
this
on
stuff
track.
in front of
I
me.
don't care. I mean, I can make a reference. So, like, one of the things I like to do at the beginning of my campaign sometimes is I have the quest giver offer the people refreshments, and if they eat them, something random happens. But usually, what I do is to see like how the players whether they trust the DM or whatnot. So I usually reward them. So if somebody like if I say there's some cool, refreshing lemonade, and it's offered to you, and you're in Cholt and it's really hot, blah blah blah, especially if I have children, like kids at the table with their parents, I like to see like what they like, what they'll look at their, should I drink it, Dad? Should I drink it? And
Mhm.
then I usually give them like two temporary hit points or something, um, or prevent them a
Never
level
trust
of
the DM.
exhaustion. I'm a benevolent DM, so I want you to win.
Yeah.
So do
There
I.
was there
Maybe
there
in a
was
roundabout way.
there was an interesting mechanic in an old Lone Wolf book that I read and played a long time ago, where there was three meal options, and if you spent the cheapest and got like the really crappy meal, it didn't really do anything. If you spent the middle tier, it like gave you healing and all that stuff. But if you bought the most expensive, it was poisoned. The
Oh, okay. That's
Oh, you
kind of
got
flip the
that in
tricky.
here.
script.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Reverse.
yeah,
Yeah, like it's so
yeah.
rich. It's like you're eating like pate de
Well,
foie
I think
gras, and it's
I
just
think
like
the
your
way I think
stomach's like, oh, I can't handle this.
I think the way the author wrote it in there, if memory serves, this was years ago. I think it was the person that was trying to kill your character knew it had to be you that would
Ah.
order such an expensive meal because nobody really had that kind of money.
Oh, that's really a good idea. That's a good
Right.
idea. It
It
like
was
sorts itself out.
Right. It was something like that. And then
I like
that
it.
book, man, there was no go backsies. It was just like I remember I turned the page and it was like you had this delicious meal, and then and then all of a sudden you don't start feeling good, and then it's just like everything goes black. You're dead. End of
Was that
story.
was that a choose your own adventure?
Kind of, yeah. They were choose your own adventure with combat and skills and stuff. It was pretty neat.
What
So
was it
like at the
called?
it was called they're called Lone Wolf, The
Wow.
Adventures of Lone Wolf. All right. And the way it worked was you had there on the back page there was a grid with
I'm gonna write
numbers
this down.
0 through 9. And what you were supposed to do is at times you were supposed to close your eyes and drop your pencil, and then that number would dictate something. So first you did that for your combat skill. You added 10 to it. So if you got a 9, you had a 19 combat skill. If you had a 0, you had a 10. And you did the
Mm,
same thing with your endurance points. And that was your hit points. And then you got to choose like 3 out of 7, basically like superpowers. Like there was camouflage where you could blend in. There was Pathfinder where you would know the way. Sixth Sense, Weapon Mastery, which gave you a boost to your combat skill.
I like it.
Healing, which lets you like yeah. But and then if you completed a book, like if you bought book one and finished it, when you bought book two, it would say if you completed book one, you can add another. So you would get like 4 of those and
Wow.
stuff. So you could keep running through it. But it was a choose your own adventure in format with combat and other stuff. It was they were amazing. I bought them all when I was a kid. I think I had like all 18 of them. I still have
Wow.
almost all of them.
Well, you
Yeah.
can still get them. That's awesome.
You
Oh, I'm
can. You
sure you can
definitely
still get
can.
them.
You definitely can. And I know that the author died, like I want to say a couple years ago, because I was looking. His name was Joe Dever, and that's Dever. And but it was, you know, when I read like his obituary when he died, it was like like that was like his greatest thing was putting that together and all the joy that everyone got out of him. And I kept thinking, I was like, I was one of them. Me, that was me. I remember reading one
No.
of these books. I was reading one of his books at the end of school when it was like, you're just kind of like waiting for, the final bell, study hall, I guess. And so I'm reading one of the books, and in the books, leave it to me, I accidentally set off an alarm in the book, and 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 I'll never forget this when I accidentally did that in that book, and it's like you hear a blaring alarm, the fire alarm in the school went off, and I was like, "This is crazy."
You're
Yeah,
you're the kid from the never-ending
yeah,
story.
that's what it felt like. Yeah, that's what it felt like. That's what it felt like. So, but they're great books. They're great books. They're like single person D&D adventures almost that you can just get and
Wow.
read. So I recommend them to everyone. I started reading them when I was like 11 years old, and I love them to this day. So they're for all ages. They're fun. Yeah.
Isn't it
Love that.
amazing when you have like a connection? You feel like as a reader that you have a connection to an author because that becomes like, you're like a favorite author. And like back in
Yeah.
the day, like, you were separated by, but now like you can reach out and like try to friend them on Facebook and like, you know what I mean? You find
Right.
out
Right.
stuff about people. But like, I have to tell you a YouTube thing. Um, so I have this book, actually it's sitting right here. It's called Zen in the Martial Arts. And I've had this book since like the 80s. And it's got all these great life lessons in it and things that I've used. And I did a couple little videos about like different situations that people and I had talked about. And I'm like, oh, this great book, blah, blah, blah. And then I get this message on one of them years after I had posted the video. And it said, thank you for reviewing Joe's little book. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm like, how do you know Joe Hyams? And she's like, well, I don't like to use the word widow, but like Joe and I were, married. And I'm like, oh my God.
That's
Like,
cool.
it just melted my heart.
Yeah, that's
Like,
pretty
you never
fascinating.
know who you're gonna like affect or touch. It's just, and I'm like, dude,
Right.
this book was like instrumental. I found this as a
Wow.
teenager when I needed some guidance. Like, it was a big deal and still is in my life because it taught me a
That's
lot about
awesome.
living. Yeah,
You're up,
pretty
Mr.
cool.
Vincent. What's your
Yeah,
book? What's your
your
book
turn,
that
man.
touched you?
Oh my. I was a voracious reader when I was a child. I was an only child, so that was one of my ways of entertaining myself. So, I mean, I read the original Hobbit at like 5.
Whoa.
Wow.
Um, because my mom was a reader and so was my father, and so I learned to read rather early. Um, and that continued through most of my life. I slammed through books like they were chewing gum.
Mm.
Uh, in the last 10 years or so, my reading has kind of been more limited to these kind of things. Uh, because I found that after reading thousands and thousands of novels that I'd get part way through a novel and I could already figure out where it was going to go.
But
Sure.
But there's not any really one book that stands out, to be honest. They all were impactful unless they were just horrible.
What if you could
but
have
we
lunch?
but
What if you could have lunch with an author? Like, is there somebody you'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to have lunch with Bram Stoker, or
Yeah, honestly, I would choose this Joe Dever I was telling you about just because his books meant so much to me. There was a time where I was like, "This, it's all I care about are his books." And Mr. Vincent's talking about reading The Hobbit at a young age. I can only imagine that part of the reason probably why he might have got into reading so much was because he probably correct me if I'm wrong, but he probably loved that at a young age, and that probably helped build the future you.
Yeah, and I didn't move forward from that particular series. It's not like The Hobbit I think reads a lot easier than Fellowship of the Rings, the Two Towers, and Return of the
absolutely.
King. I think The Hobbit was more written for young adults or children. Not specifically, but it's a little simpler read.
Right.
Uh, you know, the funny thing is that if I was going to sit down to have lunch with an author, gosh, I don't, to think about it now, I don't know because we found out so many things about some of these authors that they were just like
Yeah,
wretched
yeah,
people that you
yeah,
wouldn't want to
yeah.
have a drink or
Or
lunch with.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, or just
yeah,
ass. You know, uh,
yeah.
some of my favorite novels, I have to admit, is the Elric series by Michael Moorcock, and the Chronicles of Corum and all this stuff he wrote. I started reading that alongside Robert Howard's Conan kind of stuff, but the
Mm.
Elric books, those had a huge impact on me. The anti-hero and the swashbuckler that Elric was and stuff. So and it was a little higher fantasy, but yet incredibly morbid and and uh,
Yeah.
and entropy and chaos and stuff. Always encompassing everything in those books. So
Cool.
You know,
yeah, I can't. I mean, I've never really thought about that. So to just pop one off the normally I could just off the cuff anything, but who would I?
well,
And Michael Moorcock's an ass, so I wouldn't want to be.
you know, um, I can't think of its name off the top of my head. Maybe you guys know it and have read it, but there was a book that was by Michael Crichton that came out after he was dead. He like never really completed it, and people were like, you know what? This is good enough. Let's just put it out there. And it's about pirates. It was so good. I read it one time. I'm like, man, this is great. And I
Oh,
always meant to get back to it. But it's all about pirates. The whole thing. It's just
I
about
didn't read
pirates.
that one. I've read a lot of Crichton's work, but that I know what book you're talking about, or
Right.
novella, or whatever you want to call it. But
Yeah, yeah,
God,
yeah.
what
It's a
what
short
is
one.
that? Oh, now that's going to bother me all day, and
It's gonna bother me too. I have it downstairs somewhere.
I hate looking at things on. If I know it in my head somewhere, I'll be damned if I'm going to Google it until I at least spend an hour trying to remember.
That hour's gonna get longer each year we get older, Mr. Vincent.
And I got more time on the clock than you do, my friend. So
Hmm.
don't tell me about time is
uh,
undefeated,
Pirates are
unfortunately.
yes.
pirates are an awesome genre because you can do a lot with them. I mean, obviously, like the Pirates of the Caribbean Disney like movie series, they went to the undead kind of thing, the Davy Jones
Mhm.
locker thing, so you can incorporate that horror element into it. But I think like there's something the romance of the pirate life. I mean, I'm sure in reality it was probably horrible, but uh,
Of
but
course.
but the
Mhm.
fact that like you're defying all flags, right? You're against all flags, and you're the pirate nation, the kind of like idea of like this ad hoc anarchic. democracy or some kind of
Right.
federation of, but in their own self-interest. But we got to like, there's a bigger power that we have to fight, or be careful of, either Spain or England or whoever it happens to be. I don't know, something, it's sort of the romance of being the unsung hero, the lost cause, or the underdog, right? You just, and being scrappy and using your wits, and, you know,
We,
and putting it
well,
together to try to defeat them.
if you think about it practically, at that time, right, being on any of them ships was awful. It
Oh
didn't matter
yeah.
if you were on a pirate ship or if you were in the Royal Navy. However, and you're giving me my choice. Based on what I know, I'm taking a pirate ship every single time because first of all, they voted for their captains. There was they almost had like a union. Like they had the quartermaster who was like the union, steward.
Shop
Sure.
And
steward.
Shop
and
steward.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and on top of everything else, you're in the Caribbean, it's hot. They were actually allowed to just wear whatever was comfortable. I forget that English wool
Wool
uniform.
uniform.
You know what I mean? Like, no, thank you, please. Not in the Caribbean sun. So yeah, give me the pirate ship every time.
You know, the
Personally.
thing
Yeah.
the thing about pirates that's interesting too is it has that vibe of a found family.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
where, the more Royal Navies is, no one is your friend in a sense,
Right. Just
but the
pure
pirates,
brutality.
you took care of the person beside you because they were supposed to take care of you
Mhm.
because you have been going through these similar difficulties usually for your entire life. So that there's some of that romanticism about it as well. The freedom you speak of, but also you choosing your family or your nation as opposed to it being chosen
Yeah,
for you
and
by
your
Yeah.
birth.
leader, you
You know,
choose your leader, and then the I like some of the lore. Like when I was a kid, I remember like asking my mother, I think, and saying like, why do pirates? Why what makes it a pirate? Like why do they wear like jewelry? Like, and she's like, well, they didn't have a bank, right? So you that's what you did, right? You wore your gold on yourself because you didn't have anywhere on the ship to put it, and unless you had a good shop steward that you trusted. And then, and then why did they bury it? They're like, well, they probably didn't bury it, but it makes sense that they might bury it because where are they going to put it, right? You can't
How
do
about,
it legitimately. They probably just spent it.
I
You know?
find I find this tidbit of history so fascinating. It makes me laugh, and I can't believe like more people don't know about it. There was also people that weren't pirates. They were called like wreckers, I think, where they just went after shipwrecks. And what some of them would
Mhm.
do is they
Mhm.
would find like a rocky cliffside where like no ship should go, and they
Mhm.
would tie lanterns to the cows' tails, and
Mhm.
it looked like a lighthouse, and people
Mhm.
would come in and wreck their ships, and then they'd come down and grab all the goodies. I'm like,
Mhm.
man, what a
Yep.
world.
Yep. Land
it's
pirates.
so funny that we're laughing at that as well.
Right,
They
I
wrecked
It's
our
know.
ship, so
hilarious.
many people died.
Come to your death.
Come to your
Welcome.
death.
Yeah, in fact, Nag's Head, North Carolina is called Nag's Head because they would tie the lanterns around the horses'
Really?
necks, and it looked like the bobbing up and down of ships, and ships would come in and beach themselves on the sandbar, and then everybody would run out and take
I
the
did not
goodies.
know
Well,
that.
the things you
That
That
is
can
is
correct.
learn,
Yeah, that
the
is right.
things you can learn on a
Yeah,
with a
North.
group of three people talking
Yeah.
crap about
yeah.
What were
We're
we
so
gonna
off
talk
topic. This
about?
ship is way off course. This ship is way off
Whoa,
course.
we're on
All
the
right,
we're
I'm going
on
to
the
get us on
sand
course.
we're on the
I'm going to get us on
sandbar.
course for a second.
All right, do it. We need it,
The
Vincent.
reason
Let's
why
make
I'm going
it.
to get us on course for a second is because I currently I have the new Ravenloft book.
Ooh,
Ooh, look at that
yeah.
cover. That is
Nice.
Ooh,
beautiful.
very spooky.
I love
Um,
it.
and of course, the new Tararoka deck.
Mm.
Ooh,
Ooh.
tell your fortune or your misfortune with that.
Lower
Um,
wheel.
of course, I'm surrounded. I also have obviously the Curse of Strahd and the
Mm.
original Van Richten's guide,
Mm.
Call of
Nice.
Cthulhu here. Um, so the what I wanted to talk about today, even if just for briefly, is that of course, obviously, Wizards of the Coast to promote the new Ravenloft book in conjunction with the 10th anniversary of Curse of Strahd, decided to name uh, this month and next month the season of horror.
Mm.
Ooh.
Um, which will then be followed by the season of the Arcane and the season of Champions or whatever. And although I thought it was kind of silly to call the season of horror the middle of late spring, early summer,
Mhm.
they did it in response with the anniversary of Curse of Strahd.
Sure.
Um,
Interesting.
but what I find even more interesting is this idea that Dungeons and Dragons isn't already a horror game.
Mm.
It is my contention that Dungeons and Dragons is and always has been innately horror. We go into dark dungeons where things
Mhm.
want to eat our face. We, as these bold adventurers, we inflict pain and suffering upon our enemies. Our enemies. Of course, I'm sure the bugbear's mother didn't really consider that herself an enemy that often, but so so it's interesting to me that somehow we would have to go to Ravenloft to experience horror. But if we're not in Ravenloft, everything else is just high fantasy. As
Mm.
we use our sword of sharpness to cut off limbs or our vorpal blade to cut off heads.
Mm.
And I just think that innately Dungeons and Dragons is it's a game about murder and killing and pillaging and things.
And
And
heroism and
well,
healing.
yes, there's the flip side to that coin as well. But again, the flip
Yeah.
side of the heroism
Mm,
coin is
yes.
if you're the hero, what kind of things are you inflicting upon the enemy? And sometimes those enemies are not just implicitly evil,
Yeah.
certainly.
Right.
I mean, we hear of
So
the murder hobo thing where someone just goes in and slaughters the whole goblin village. You saw that in Star Wars where Anakin
right.
Skywalker destroyed the whole Tusken Raider thing and the
Yeah.
Jawas and everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
And their
but
pets.
he was saving his mother or avenging his mother. So
So
I
I
don't know.
actually have
That's part of a premise.
well,
That's one
Hmm.
of the reasons why I wanted to talk about simply because it is the season of horror. But again, I think every season is a season of horror in Dungeons
Hmm.
and Dragons.
well, Mr. Vincent, I have a bit of a hot take on this as you were talking about this. So I'm now feel free to fact check me on this because we're going back to the early 1990s. Okay. When I very first was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons, the small group that I played with, it was second edition, and a lot of the adventures were, homebrewed adventures that the DM would cook up, and they were a lot of hiking through the woods and getting jumped by stuff, and they were a lot of fun, uh, and I loved them all. But then one of the guys in the group was like, "Hey, I got this new thing," and I remember it being Raven. It was Ravenloft. I feel like it debuted with second edition. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Yeah. And
yes.
and and I'm like, well, what's different about it? And he's like, oh, it's just all horror. I'm like, okay, well, let's check it out. And it was different. So like I feel like in second edition, it actually there was more of a difference, at least in the way we were playing our games leading up to that. And then when he was going with this module, it became very Dracula-esque and stuff like that. And I remember like leaving the first session, I was like, man, that was dark, you know? And
But
so I think maybe over the evolution of time that now we're now what 5.5e, I think they kind of came together. But maybe at the beginning there was a need for a separate, but now
so
there's not.
if we go back to the beginning, right before the Ravenloft module by the Hickmans came out, a lot of the modules were still just, you even look at Keep on the Borderlands or whatever. I mean, that was you went into dark caves and the caves of chaos, and you slayed all the things inside and took all their treasure and went back to the village, a happy and rich man, and carried their bodies of your fallen foes with you. Um, Certainly in the earlier edition, death was a lot more common.
Right.
Characters got killed and you re-rolled new ones simply because if they died at first or second level, you're not going to spend or have access to 30,000 gold pieces for a resurrection spell. Um, at any rate. But then when they did come out with the Ravenloft module, it was the Vampire Hunt, the classic
Right.
Hammer films, Dracula, and however the surrounding lands in Barovia originated in Greyhawk, right? The
Okay.
idea the idea of Ravenloft as another dimension, I think that's when it came out in second edition, but um,
Mhm.
originally it was just the house on Griffin Hill and it was just a classic vampire hunt. Vampires plaguing the village. We're going to go there and we're going to take care of this problem because the villagers need uh, rescuing from this malevolent force. And the whole mythology of it being swept away to another dimension where Barovia is now this prison of Strahds that he's going to have to relive his crimes over and over again. I think that was probably the second edition version. I don't know. I have it
Hmm.
around here somewhere, and then
Yeah.
I don't know,
It was a
but
long time ago. It was a
yeah,
long time ago. And all I remember from the adventure is like towards the end of our time frame on the session, my character died. And I was like, well, at least we're almost done. It's time for me to call my mom anyways, get a lift home.
and can I sleep with you tonight, Mom? My character died. I'm
my
scared.
my
Um,
character died because he got swarmed by a bunch of like ravens and bats and fell off a cliff. That's what I
Oh,
remember.
that happens a lot in
interesting.
Ravenloft, in at
Yeah.
Castle Ravenloft for sure. And so then when they had that such a success with the Ravenloft module, that's when they fleshed out, hey, let's make the whole domains of dread and we're going to take all these classic characters, Ravenloft has its version of the Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein. It's got its Jekyll and Hyde. It's got its Jack the Ripper. It's got its Mask of the Red Death and all these classic Gothic tales. And we'll put our spin on them, and not call them Dracula or Frankenstein because those things still weren't quite public domain yet per se, or they were owned by Universal or Hammer or any number of people. For whatever reason, they just changed the names. Locations were pretty much the same. The ideas were the same, and they put their own spin on them. And that's when they came out with the big Ravenloft box sets and stuff
Y-
uh, that are now too expensive for anyone to afford unless you go to
You,
unless you
you
go to
know,
DM's Guild and get the reprints or whatever. But um,
come to think of it, if you count that character death plus the two that I've had in Adventure League, all three characters I've had that died, they were all fighters. I think maybe I should just stop that class. I'm not good with the fighter
Get
class,
some
apparently.
healing. Get some healing.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I think in a general way though, what you're talking about with horror, I think the outside people outside D&D that don't play D&D, I think that's what they think of though when they think of D&D because when I tell like today I was talking to a parent and he had his little kid there and I said, yeah, I missed the last couple of weeks because I was at summer camp and I taught and oh, what do you teach? Well, I taught Star Wars camp, but I also taught D&D camp. I always feel like I have to have a disclaimer when I say that because I'll get these like kind of reactions like, ooh, D&D, that's demonology and and it's like nah, not necessarily. Like so I try to do more of the Arthurian legend kind of thing if I can. But I have to tell you, like these kids are exposed to like some crazy stuff, man. Like a
Oh,
lot of the
absolutely.
anime
Right.
and stuff they're watching. Demon Slayer and what's the other one? There's a new one now that my friend's 8-year-old's watching it. It's like definitely for adults. It's an anime. It's an animated series, but it's dealing with like existential dread and like just all kinds of crazy things that would be perfect in Ravenloft, but not necessarily something I want to be teaching to a second grader. So
Right.
like I don't let them be warlocks. Like the warlock class is not something I introduce to them because I
Interesting.
don't want to have to explain to their parents why they're talking to another worldly patron. Like
Yeah.
I just don't want to explain that. You know what I mean? You want to be a cleric and talk to like the sun
A
god?
different otherworldly
Literally,
patron.
that's a little different, right? Exactly, right. A different one, a dark one, right? Like I don't want to get involved in that. So I sanitize D&D. I sanitize it. I do a sanitized version, and And a lot of times I've learned this the hard way. If I like start them off and keep in the Borderlands, right, at the castle keep, um, which by the way, we were playing on Tuesday night. We just wrapped up. But we were murder hobos in the caves too, but we didn't kill the villagers. So like if I introduce them in the keep, they want to, this one dude, I did this eventually. He wanted to like go and like kill all of the guards in the
The
towers
guards.
so he could steal all their gold. And I'm like, dude, those are the guys on your side. But his dad was at the table and kind of talked him down. You know what I'm talking about, Slider,
Yeah, oh
right?
yeah, that's it. That's that same young one in a casino adventure just looked at me and said, "I just want to stab the guy next to me." I'm like, "What do you mean you want to stab the guy next to me?"
Like,
And
what the heck?
I said, all right, well, I don't know who you're going to stab, so roll me a d20 and we'll figure it out. And he rolled a one, and I was like,
He's
all right,
security.
yeah. I'm like, as soon as you stab him, he turns into this like demon,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
take 1d4 psychic damage. He steals your dagger and says, "Don't ever do that again," and then disappears.
Wow. See, that's the
But
thing. So when I do this now with the
Wow.
kids, like you look at the character sheets, they've got all these stats there for killing stuff. They got a dagger, they got a sword, they
mm,
got spells, all that stuff.
Fireball.
So you got to give them a target, right? So we start in the caves of chaos, right? You start out with like killing
right, right,
hobgoblins and things that aren't human, so that it's not human death. And I dumb them down. I don't make them sentient. It's like, or it's either like they're animals, they're killing bugbears or owlbears, or they're like stormtroopers, right? Like they're B1B battle droids. They're just, you know what I mean?
right,
Like they're just something to hit. And and if they're really little, like if they're really young, if I'm doing like first through third graders, they turn into pixie dust, like there's no bodies to loot. They just drop their gold, just like in a Mario game or something like that. You know what I mean?
nice,
So
yeah.
but these kids, like, even the 6-year-olds still describe it. Sometimes they're like, well, how does that happen? What does that look like? Like, I split him in two and his guts fall out. And I'm like, whoa, dude, that's a little dark, but okay, that's what happens. You know what I mean? But like, we,
Out of the mouth of babes.
I'm telling you, so it's out
Yeah.
there. So I'm not protecting them from anything usually, but I don't want to be the one that corrupts them. That's up to somebody else. So,
Well, you mentioned the warlocks. I actually this character played one adventure in our adventure league, and but I was like, you know what, I want to make a warlock, and then I was going through the thing, and I was like, I gotta choose an otherworldly patron, and there wasn't a whole lot of guidelines on it that I saw, and I was just like, okay, this dude caught a leprechaun,
oh,
and that's
that's
his
pretty cool.
otherworld
That's
patron
pretty
is a
cool.
leprechaun,
Yeah.
and that was the
Sure.
Or
backstory behind it. And
genie.
I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that could
but
work. That could work.
yeah.
I like it.
But then, yeah,
I
but
might use
I
that.
didn't really,
So,
I didn't really care for that character class. So he's been stalled out at level 2 ever since. I played with him one time, and
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not big into the magic, you know that. Not
Magic's,
not not,
it's
not
hard,
against
man.
anybody that is or likes it. I just when I play a character that does magic, it's not as much fun is a fighter who apparently I can never get to survive, or my personal or my rogues and bards. I like using skills. I'm a big skills guy personally for
Me too.
characters.
Me too.
so
But
certainly Pat, I
Yeah.
understand that, when you're teaching children,
Hmm.
the idea of role-playing games, whatever universe it's in,
Hmm.
we certainly are not going to accentuate the blood spewing
Yeah, I
from the
try not to
knife.
do anatomy
right.
And
lessons.
that's even if they are already exposed to it, even if they are already playing video games that show that, or watching these animes that are very, if it's not blood, it's other weird viscous fluids dripping from
Oh,
eyes, ears, and every
Icor.
ichor from every orifice available.
Or is it
Uh,
Ichor? I don't know if it's Ichor or Icor, but
I like ichor.
Icor sounds
I
like pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
ichor. Um,
But
you know, so
Ichor like describes it because it's icky, right? So sorry,
well,
go
we'll
ahead.
have to Google
Go ahead.
that one, I guess.
Go
I
ahead.
don't know.
I joke. I joke. I'm sorry.
Fine, joke away.
It's like
I'm like,
it's like realtor or realtor. We don't know. Is it realtor or realtor? Is it hiker or hiker?
Realtor sounds like a good name for an arch villain, like Realtor, Radiator, Realtor. What was the name of that potion? That
radium.
Radathor, Radathor,
Thor the
Thor.
Realtor. That's a new
Radathor the
That's a new
Realtor.
character for
Now
me.
that is a liege lord right there,
I'm
or
right. I'm
edge
right in
lord or
that
whatever.
one. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right.
You gotta
So
write all these
God.
ideas
sorry to
down.
interrupt you. I'm
Right.
writing it
Yeah,
down.
No,
yeah.
Mr.
that's
Vincent,
fine.
you were saying like, yeah, you don't want to get into the anatomicalness of the death, right?
Yeah, so
But you
don't
Right.
give him a sword of sharpness or a vorpal blade, or that's going to go right out the window.
right.
Um, no, I mean once we hit the high school level, uh, 14 and 15 above or whatever, then all bets are off pretty much. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't play with children. I have one group that I play with that has a couple 10-year-olds and a 13-year-old. So obviously I'm going to game that a little differently. Although
Right.
I'm sorry, all of my games have elements of horror to them because I
Sure.
just think the games are innately. I mean, if you're going into a weird crypt and
Yeah.
all even skeletons or zombies come forth,
hmm
well, I mean that's innately horrifying in a sense,
hmm
an undead body coming back to life to
hmm
want something from you, and it's usually not your coin or your kind words.
Well,
Uh, so
Well, that's a good point. Start them in a dungeon. If you start them in a dungeon, then pretty much anything that's going to come at them, it's okay to kill, right? Because it's not a human
yeah, a
being, or
lot
it
of it
might not
wants to
even have a face, right? It might
it
just
well, it
be
wants
like
to
a
eat your face.
exactly. That's a really good point. So it's defense, right? Self-defense. So you're teaching
Yeah,
them how to protect themselves.
sure. Or are these games in general, whether it's for children or adults, is it allowing all of us at the table to start exploring our fears or
oh wow.
how
Interesting.
we deal with fear? And obviously, one of the greatest fears that all men and women have is the end, death, or infirmary.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That's a universal fear unless you're somehow able to transcend that because you're a Buddhist or I don't know, whatever. But
hmm
um, so and the idea of evil is also universal as a fear. We fear evil. We fear and then the whole and this has nothing to do with the supernatural aspects of this because I personally don't believe in ghosts or vampires or zombies or any of those things.
Bigfoot.
So I think we all are still kind of trying to deal with that. We're removed from the animals. As man, we are only our only predator is other humans, generally speaking, and we've lost that. However, all our animal comrades around us, they constantly still have in the back of their mind that at some point some animal could attack me and start
hmm
eating me while I'm still alive.
Yeah.
hmm
And
And I
I don't
mean
know. I just think that horror is and fear is a central element to these games that we play.
and to build off that, what he's saying, I do think a lot of people, like if you ask them, who do you like better, Luke Skywalker or Han Solo? You almost unanimously get Han Solo, right? People like their heroes a little bit gritty. Like it's a little bit more believable to be a grittier hero, a hero that does some not so nice things to some not so nice people. You know what I mean? And that's how it equals out. And I think that's where you get people that are like, I'm just gonna smash his head in. And it's like,
hmm
yeah, all right, well, you're the type of character that would, so go ahead and
hmm
smash this, evil orc's head in. Have at
Well,
it.
we want to destroy our fears. No one wants to
Right.
be fearful. We don't want to walk down the street and wonder if someone is going to do us great harm. So, I mean, I don't, yeah, I just,
That's why honestly, I love it when I'm DMing and there's a player who makes a character that is like almost innately good, like Obi-Wan Kenobi good, just like this. Like I'm like, man, I like love it. I'm like always here. I'm like, this is awesome. I love that you came to the table with like, dude, I'm just gonna be like the purest character ever. I love it because it's actually it's actually rarer than I ever would have thought. You know, most people bring characters with a little bit of grit and
Mm,
sass.
mm.
You know,
Yeah,
so
that's a
Well,
good
because
point.
but
very few of us are paragons of virtue. I
right,
Yeah.
mean, we
right,
all are a
well,
little gray area in some ways or another, you know.
So
We
when you
can.
said Luke Skywalker, and I thought you were gonna go right to Vader, you went to like Han, because I was a big Vader fan. But I think the reason is, I mean, D&D
but
lets us.
Vader's not a hero. Vader's not a hero.
To me,
I
he
don't care what
was
anybody says. But he's not supposed to be. You know what I mean? So it's like
right.
you got
No,
these two heroes with different styles,
right.
and I feel
No,
like
you're right.
most people, like for whatever reason, gravitate towards that type. I shouldn't even say, because it could just be that Harrison Ford's the like
The
the better
actor,
actor or
the
whatever. You know what I
actor.
mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
but
Or
but
the
the
part
At
the
was
that
character.
written
time, at
better.
that time
Yeah,
for
the
sure.
part was written better. But that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. As far as the parts written,
yeah,
like the character type, like
sure.
you know what I mean. Like
He's
even
got
like
a cool
shows like Sons,
backstory, whereas Luke has a terrible backstory. You know, he's
even
just,
shows like
yeah,
Sons
he's
of
a terrible
Anarchy
farmer.
was extremely popular, and they were bikers, but like you found yourself being like, whoa, these guys are like, I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for a biker gang.
Sure,
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it's written, So there's
sure.
something about the grittiness that seems to attract people in their character builds that I see, anyways. And I know it's with mine. All of mine are shady as can be. Every character I make is shady. Doesn't mean he's not a hero. It's just
That's the fun
shady.
part about D&D and acting in general is that you get to explore things like when I was in school plays, I always played the bad guy. Always played the Gestapo agent or the in Arsenic and
Mhm.
Sound
Old
of Music.
Lace. I was like,
When were you
yeah,
playing
like
Gestapo music?
it was
The
called
Sound of
Sound of
Music.
Music?
Don't Drink
Yeah,
the
Sound of Music.
Water. It was called Don't Drink
Oh,
the Water. And it was
okay.
like there was a bad guy. I guess he was Bulgarian. I don't know. It was Eastern European kind of thing where, I guess because I was the one that could do accents was the reason I got cast. But like it was more fun to play like Peter
Sure.
Lorre's
We'll go with
character,
that.
Peter Lorre's character in Arsenic
Oh,
and Old
look.
Lace,
Oh,
you
look. The
know,
fog is coming in now.
because he's like uh I don't know. He's on the bad team, right? And I don't.
Yeah.
You don't get to do that in real life.
Love Peter Lorre.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that is
Like you
true.
get to be. You don't get to be you don't get to explore that, right? So like, I don't get to like just haul off and yell at somebody in public. Even though I want to. Like
Right.
I can't believe you
No,
just cut in line in front of me at the supermarket. You know what I mean? But
you
like
slime.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
But when you get to play a character like, Darth Vader, you're like, you are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away. Like there's something
Right.
cathartic about being able to
You're
do
right.
that. You go up to the hero. It's like if somebody said to me, if you're not one of the named characters in Star Wars, who would you be? And I said, in Return of the Jedi, there's a scene where Han Solo they're breaking into the back door of like the shield generator, and there's this dude in a imperial uniform that runs up and puts a gun in Han Solo's face and says, "You rebel scum."
Yeah.
It's just would be so satisfying to be that guy. You know what I mean?
You make a good point about D&D giving you an opportunity to do stuff that you would never do. Like, so for example, I hate lying. I can't stand it. I never do it. I'm honest to a fault.
Right.
And that's probably why one of my favorite characters is Burt Madrid, because that's all he does is lie. It's like I'm
Right.
able to get that
You
get
get to
that out. You know
investigate
what I
it.
mean?
Right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, you get to do
yeah,
it
yeah.
in a safe environment where it has no repercussions.
Right,
And
right, right.
that's what role playing is, I think it's a therapy like you were talking about, Mr. Vincent, about looking at things, looking at fears, looking at deep psychological things, but like it can be therapeutic. And in fact, I had a teacher watch me on the Star Wars thing. She followed me uh, and as part of her psych credits, I don't know, she's doing like a third psych degree at the college I was at, and she's like watching me teach these kids, and I'm telling them the difference between the dark side and the light side, and they get to have an oath, and we did like a knighting ceremony, and they all wanted to be Sith at first, and then they all wanted to be Jedi. But I told them, I'm like, what's Sith? And they're like, evil, and I'm like, yes, but a Sith would not describe themselves that way, right? So, what are the values of the Sith, right? They value power, right? They value control, self-control, right? That kind of thing. So
Order.
order among instead of chaos. Exactly. They're not just like, I'm evil and I'm going to tear everything down. It's like, no, they want to build something, but they just have a different agenda, right? So,
Very
and
specific.
Boo the
yeah,
Sith.
but
Boo the
yeah,
Sith.
but like, but then I had the gray Jedi too. It's like, okay, well, what's that? Well, it's elements of both, right? She likes, like Ahsoka. She likes the order, but she doesn't want to be part of the order, right? She wants to do it her own way. So she also values freedom, which is also a Sith value, right? Freedom
Mhm.
is a thing, right? Like I'll do it my way, as opposed to like the Jedi Order, which is, more dogmatic and more like you have to follow the rules. So, there's a chance for those kids to like investigate those ideas in a safe environment that doesn't, that's not going to mean anything
Yeah.
ultimately, but at least they get an idea to think about it. So
One of my favorite quotes is calmness is the cradle of power. And I try to remind myself that all the time. And I'm
who
like,
said that? That's beautiful,
it
What kind
was
of words are you speaking? I do not understand what you say,
right?
Slider.
it was a novelist. I don't know. I can't think of his name. I
Some
honestly
very
can't.
wise person that
Some very
was
wise
able
person.
to maintain their emotions, obviously.
Right, because it's
I am
hard to
not one of
do.
those.
Right, me either. And I
This,
try to teach it to
yeah,
to baseball players that I coach. I'm like, that's how plays get out of control when you panic.
yeah.
Calmness is the cradle of power, but it's
This
hard in practice.
This book actually has a quote, control your emotions or they will control you. And I learned that at a very young age, and it was,
True.
really helpful. I mean, I think one
Mm,
of the things that I do when I teach kids is allow them, I tell them like obviously they have emotions. And I say, emotions are there. They exist. They're real, and you're allowed to have them. But it's also useful at times to be able to modulate them, right? So learning how to do that is very advantageous in life. Yeah, you can go ahead and go in the corner and cry, and we'll be here, and you come back when you're done, and that's fine. But we're going to continue to do what we're doing, because sorry, but
right.
it's not all about you. And when you're ready, you can come back and join the group. And that's might seem a little cold, but
No, more adults need
No,
to follow that as well,
I
yeah,
think there's
life goes on.
emotion.
I'm
There,
with Mr.
yeah,
Vincent on
there's
this one. Yeah,
there's a
it's not
chance.
including
cold.
myself.
It's
I'm
a
not
learning
saying
opportunity.
including me.
Sure.
All right.
Sure. Hey, we all have our self-centered moments, but yeah.
All right. Well, let's
Or
bring it
our
back around.
over emotional moments as well, for sure.
So, character deaths. I want to hear about some character deaths that you guys have had. I told you
Okay.
about the one that got swarmed by a bunch of birds and bats and fell off a cliff, and then I had Squint who died in Eberron. He got like I was making death saving throws on an airship, and then the airship crashed, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm dead. And then the other player was like, oh no, wait, I want to go back and do something. Like they like forgot about me, and I'm like, no go backsies. My dude's dead. You guys forgot about me. That's it
So
for it.
so
And
let's
then
get
there
into
was
the character deaths, but hang on one second because I gotta
yeah,
take like
sure.
a 2-minute break. Okay.
All right.
All right. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
me
I'm gonna
too. That's
pause
good.
here. Yeah.